Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our webinar, Go Local, Location-Based Marketing for Your Business. My name is Jill, and I'm the Training and Education Manager today. And the webinar this afternoon is being presented by Ellery Long, our Social Media Manager.
Hello.
And he's going to take you through the fun of location-based social media. Just a couple things before we get started. First of all, this webinar is about 30-ish minutes long, depending how much Ellery talks on some of the slides. At the end, there will be time for Q&A. So if you think of questions along the way, go ahead and type those into the box that you see in the GoToWebinar window, and we'll be happy to answer as many of those as we can at the end of the webinar. The question we get asked all the time, and we will be asked, I have no doubts at the end of the webinar, is this being recorded? And the answer is yes, we are recording this. This will be available on our help site next week. I usually put them up about a week after the webinar. So if you go to help.verticalresponse.com and click on webinars, you'll find this one listed there, as well as the other ones we've done in the past. But this is a new webinar for us. We haven't done anything on location-based social media, so this should be really fun this afternoon.
Sure hope so.
Take it away, Ellery.
Thanks, Jill. So location-based marketing, what exactly is it? That's a good question, and there's, as with any new medium, as it grows, there is kind of confusion around the semantics involved. So you've probably heard of Foursquare, or maybe you have. We'll look at some stats in a few slides about exactly how many people have. But, applications like Foursquare, GoLocal, which was just recently purchased by Facebook, Scavenger, there's a handful out there that's core business unit is geo-targeting and applications that are primarily run via your mobile phone that are based on where you are in the world. But location-based marketing goes a little bit beyond that too. So things that you're probably quite familiar with, Facebook, for example, Facebook Places. Many of you, all of you probably have a Facebook business page, and if you have a retail location or a location that your customers come visit you at, you may have your Facebook page set up as a Facebook Place as well. And so marketing through that medium would also be considered location-based, as well as Google Places, tagging your location on sites like Yelp, etc. So anything that is going to be specific to the location of your customer, as in you're marketing to them based on where they are on the map, is considered location-based marketing. So that's going to be the umbrella term that we're going to be using as we move forward. So what is location-based marketing as far as the medium and adoption? And it's, to be frank, not all that impressive when you look at it this way. So if you look at overall, Forrester just did a year-end 2011 report on location-based marketing. These are specifically apps. So this is things like Foursquare, GoLocal, etc. Only 6% of online adults in the US are using these kind of apps. It is up from 4% in 2010, but when you look at sites like Facebook or even Google+, the growth rate year over year is much, much greater than what we're seeing in this space. And not only are only 6% actually using these apps, only 30% have even heard of the category. When asked, do you know what geolocation apps are? Not that many have. I mean, compare that to the 65% of US online adults that are using Facebook's, Google+, MySpace, or other social networks out there. So you can see the divide. And when it comes to regular use, only 2% of online adults, compared to that 6% that are using the apps at all, only 2% are using them with any regularity, once a week or more. I think it's 4% once a month. So the adoption has certainly been slow. So why bother, you might ask? And I'm going to go ahead and make the case, and probably wouldn't be doing this webinar in the first place if I didn't believe that you should be looking at this space. But the one thing to keep in mind is that while you're not hearing a huge amount about the growth of geolocation apps in particular, you can't read a technology blog or magazine at all without hearing about the growth of mobile. How mobile and smartphones are in everybody's hands and they're using them more and more and more. And geolocation is completely tied to that growth as well. So as more mobile adoption happens, you're going to see a ton more adoption and integration, like Facebook Places, for example, into the things that we're using day to day. And the customer who is using that 6% of US online adults that's using geolocation apps are actually really good customers to be targeting. They're twice as likely than the average adult online user to share product info. Not quite twice, but also we see bumps in their likeliness to share coupons, discounts, things like that. So you've got a relatively savvy group of consumers here who is into spreading the gospel of products, if you will. They're also a pretty wealthy, from an income standpoint, group of users. So an average household income across geolocation app users is over $92,000. So, you know, trying to target these high-end customers can be good, particularly depending what industry vertical you're in. On the flip side of that, it really doesn't cost a lot of money to get involved. So, you know, in trying to evangelize on behalf of location-based marketing, I generally make the case that, hey, it's pretty low risk. It's a unique way to make your business stand out in the local market. And, you know, apps like Facebook and Foursquare don't cost you anything to use as a business. The only cost really is whatever incentives that you're attaching to it. So if you are offering a discount to people who check into your location, and say it's a 10% coupon, then the cost of the promotion is that 10% coupon. But I don't think that's different than many other marketing initiatives you're already doing. The technology itself is not costly. The technology is also really important when it comes to trying to figure out what your return is. When someone's checking into your location, it makes tracking them incredibly easy. You know, people are always talking about things like Twitter and what's the ROI of every status update that I'm putting on Facebook, etc. And you know what? It's still really, really hard to figure that out. There are ways you can do things with, you know, the links you're using and different analytic tools out there, which are not inexpensive by any means. But with app like Foursquare or a check-in on Facebook, your customer is doing the work for you. They're identifying the fact that they've come into the store, and you can start tying that to their activity within the store. And I'm using the word store for the most part. That's going to be, I'm guessing most of the people on the webinar now have some sort of retail or physical location, whether you're offering a service like a hair salon or you know you have a retail store selling products. All the examples that I give going forward are going to work for both of those, but for the sake of brevity, I'm just going to use words like store going forward. And lastly, it's fun. Games are fun. You've probably heard the term gamification thrown around when it comes to marketing and online marketing. And really, it's just the idea that giving people goals and things to do taps into that human desire to play, if you will. And this is a really great way to do that. And there's a payoff. I've put in bold at the very bottom the big one, revenue, bringing people into your location, into your store, and incentivizing them to make purchases is going to lead directly to revenue in a way that most other social programs don't as of now. But there's also other qualitative things that make a lot of sense to think about location-based marketing. It can be extremely relevant. It could be based on the time of day, the area that you're in, an event that's going on near you. It can be extremely relevant to the customers you're trying to reach. And you're really getting engagement based on where your customers are and what you know about them based on that. So what that's going to do, essentially, you're looking at the activity that your customers, or not even potential customers just nearby your store, you're able to get an insight into what they're doing and what kind of you know, lifestyle they may lead. So skipping down to that last bullet, consumer research is a great point here. You can start seeing people who are checking into your location. Check out their profiles, see what other places they're checking into, and start getting an idea about the kind of customer that you're reaching on these platforms. The last points here, social marketing close to or at the point of sale. That's kind of like the holy grail, right? We send emails, we tweet to people, and it's all about trying to get them to come in so that you can then make that closing move. Here, you've got them right there. The idea with location-based marketing is they're in the vicinity and they are hopefully closer because of that to making a purchase. And it also is a great loyalty play and an ability to really turn your customers into evangelists, to go out there and by sharing where they are and where they're checking into most often, that's going to go down the chain of the people that they're socially connected to as well. So the only specific service that I'm going to highlight here is Foursquare. That is not to endorse that they are the only one, but they are certainly the largest and the most widely used at this point. And they're the most robust as far as features. So as I go through all the different kinds of promotions you can do around location-based marketing, all of them are doable on Foursquare, and then as you go into other services, there will be incrementally less. So just to, for the sake of being able to find you good examples of other companies doing things, we're going to kind of focus on Foursquare, but know that, you know, with Facebook Places and a lot of other services out there, you can do many of these things as well. So quick look at Foursquare in case you aren't fully familiar with it as a platform before we dive into some specific tactics. So Foursquare in the world of social networks is not huge, but 15 million users is not too shabby either. And also we want to look at the amount of activity that's going on. And there's millions of check-ins every day on Foursquare. So those users and the power users we identified in that earlier stat of people using the app more than once a week, those are the people that you're really trying to tap into. And then on the business side, we're looking at over 500,000 businesses are using the merchant platform. And that's one of the things and the reasons I wanted to highlight Foursquare here is that they do have a very business-friendly, free and easy to use, and feature-robust platform specific to businesses. And they divide that up between venues and brands. For the purpose of this today, we're going to primarily talk about venues because that's primarily who vertical response customers are. Brands are kind of the larger, the Coca-Colas of the world. You see here the History Channel, a lot of arts and entertainment brands, etc. And there's, for brands, a much more high barrier to entry, as in investment to really partner with Foursquare. So I definitely encourage you if you're looking for, you know, ways to go bigger, to poke around the Foursquare.com site. They have a whole site set up that this screenshot was taken from, specifically aimed at businesses and how you can use their service for businesses. All right, so that said, let's get into the good stuff. What can you do with location-based marketing? And I've divided it into two categories. Basically offers and everything else. I forget what I titled everything else. We'll get to that slide
We'll find
later.
out soon.
But offers are more than just the idea of, hey, here's an offer. There are actually different kinds of offers, and there's a different sort of gamification attached to each one of those. So I thought it'd be helpful to break down different offer types and give you some examples of what that looks like. So first off is your straightforward check-in special. This is some sort of offer that you're giving as a reward for checking in, with the idea that you are motivating people to choose your location over a different store, restaurant, venue, based on the fact that there's something in it for them. So if I'm a Foursquare user and I want to see what specials are around me, by you having a check-in special listed on it, it's going to tell me within a couple mile radius or whatever I set it as what specials are around. So it's a great way to get your business in front of a lot of people who might not have heard of you before, or have had you on that, oh, I've been meaning to check them out, and you're kind of using this special to push them in that direction. What you want to think about though is what the special is and how it speaks about your brand. So this example here, this is a Japanese restaurant pretty close to
Here.
our office right here, um, and they, from a branding perspective, right? I can't even pronounce that first word, irashamase. And then they go on and say, if you've never tried the garlic soy edamame, they are positively addictive. So not only are they just saying, hey, you get this free thing, but they're giving some information about it. They're taking some other marketing best practices in there, and really kind of having some personality come across. The other thing that they're doing is that what they're giving away is a small perk. It's a basket of edamame. It's probably $3 if you order it at the restaurant. So by doing that, they are essentially incentivizing more purchase. So I'm coming in and I'm not just getting the free edamame, I'm going to be buying things on top of that. And edamame is a nice appetizer that complements, whatever other purchase that I'm going for. So, think about what you can offer that will tie into other things that will create opportunities for these customers to spend more money. And check-ins in general, and this will apply to a lot of the other offers we look at, are a great way to create word of mouth. So everybody that follows via Twitter, Foursquare, Facebook, or wherever they're sharing this information are going to see that they've checked in, and oftentimes customers will, add a little bit of commentary as well, like, oh my God, the garlic soy edamame was ridiculously good. And you can even ask and encourage people to add that commentary as well. So this is kind of the straightforward, original, straight up check-in special. You check in, you get something. We're going to look at a couple variations of that now and hopefully give you some good ideas. One, something that goes directly to new customers. So it's based not only on a check-in, but a first check-in. And so if you're using something like Foursquare, it will track that information for you. It'll say this is the first time that this person has checked into your location. So T-Mobile here is giving 30% off an accessory for their first check-in. What I like about this is it's a really good welcome strategy. We talk about in our email webinars and best practice for email how when somebody signs up for your list, sending out a welcome email. So the idea is the same with location-based, welcoming them to the store and giving them something to get excited about and hopefully come back. It's also a good way to get info on new customers, see where they're coming from. When you're in the location and you see somebody's checked in, if you can do that in real time, you can figure out what that process was for them and how they found out about you, et cetera, and hopefully even get other contact info for them, like an email address and other ways to connect with them in the future. At the very least, though, all Foursquare users connect through, you create your Foursquare account based on your Twitter account. So you then have their Twitter information and have a way to reach out to them in the future. You can also use this to link to other offers. So as we go forward here and look at other examples, you'll notice that a lot of them, they don't exist in a vacuum, right? So the idea is this is your first point of contact and your first entry, but think about where you can link them out to on your website or other social places that will give them more information and more reasons to keep engaging and interacting with you. Group rewards. This is a great way to bring in larger parties, and especially if you are, in the food service business in a place, say, near the vertical response office, you have all these workers that are looking for places to go at lunch. If they can team together and get something out of it, that's a great way to draw them in and create that buzz around that. And again, as we were looking at that check-in special earlier, you want to think about what's complementary. So offering an appetizer, as Chili's does here. And also what you're doing is tapping into the social aspects of this. So we talk about social a lot and immediately think about online, Twitter friends and Facebook friends, et cetera. But social, if you remember, actually happens offline too in real life. And that's, friends and that social group. You're tapping into that, um, instinct to want to be part of something bigger. So getting people to do something together, like check in, is a great way to bring new customers into the fold. Flash deals. So this is similar. Well, I should say it's not totally similar to what you think of when you think of flash sales on websites, um, like daily deal type sites. But if you're familiar with websites like, especially in the fashion industry, like Gilt Group or Rue La La, or other companies like that, it's the idea of offers at a very limited time. And so Foursquare enables you to do this through a specific offer that they have called a flash special. But you could just as easily do it on Facebook or another thing, but where by just verbally setting the parameters of the deal. Today only, come into the store and get X, Y, Z. You can also do what the Sports Authority does in this example, which is tie it to an existing in-store event, right? So maybe you're having a big sale, a year-end sale, or some sort of clearance that you're already going to have foot traffic coming in for. Well, you can utilize a flash special like this, location-based, saying once they get to the store and check in, there's additional perks and additional offers on top of that existing sale. It's also a great opportunity to create business in downtime. So, maybe February, for whatever reason, is a historically slow month at your company. Well, flash specials could be a really good way to drum up some business. And sure, maybe, there's a cost associated with the discount that you're giving, but that might make up for the lack of business you would otherwise have. The caveat I have here is to make sure to pre-promote. So, you know, inherently with the flash special, if it's only a day, that doesn't give much time for it within that day to build up the buzz necessary to get good results. So it's something that you want to get your customers excited about leading up to the actual sale. So post status messages, send tweets out there saying, just a week until our surprise Foursquare sale. Be sure to come by the store several times, check in, and you have your chance to win.
There was, I did a presentation on Friday to a local business, and I was talking to somebody there, and she was saying she does a similar sort of thing with flash sales. She'll be open on a Sunday when she isn't normally open, and what she'll do to get buzz around it is send out an email to her engaged people and let them know on the Saturday before that they're going to have this special sale, and then post it on social media on the Sunday because she wants her email people to come in first because those are her very engaged audience. And then on her Facebook page, she'll let people know that she's having this flash sale as well. So this would be a great thing that she could incorporate into those type of sales that she's doing, is to include a Foursquare special as well, and she could easily put that in one of her emails that she's sending out.
Absolutely, and I feel like it was a bullet on an earlier slide that maybe I just skipped over, but one of the awesome things about this is it really integrates with your existing marketing programs really well. It's easy in an email or in one of your social efforts out there to add a location-based layer to it.
Right.
So, you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You're not trying to come up with brand new ideas always here, but you've already got promotions going on. So think about how you can add a location-based aspect to it. Loyalty programs. We've got a couple more offer types. So loyalty programs you're probably familiar with from, everything from frequent flyer to Jill and I are both Starbucks addicts and totally into the gold card idea, which really, when it comes to loyalty programs, isn't that fantastic.
You get a gold card with your name on it.
Yes, this is true. And free Wi-Fi if you're ever in a Starbucks using Wi-Fi, which a lot of people are. But the idea is that you give discounts on your products or free products out to customers based on how often that they come to your location. So one thing to think about is doing that incrementally. Like, on the third check-in, you get this worth $5. On the 10th check-in, you get something more valuable, and letting that really build that loyalty from your customers. It's also great to help you identify your most valuable customers out there because you can use tools from a lot of these companies to just get a count of how many times people have been in a particular, checked into a particular location.
Apparently, the mayor at Thirsty Bear is very thirsty.
Yes, it's Alex T, that guy, and me. You'll notice all of these things because
Are right around our
yeah,
office.
because Foursquare is very location based. I can really only search specials and deals within a radius of me. And so this guy, Alex T, I have no idea who he is, but I do know that I was battling him for the mayorship of Starbucks for months. But then we moved offices, so I guess he got it back.
He got it back.
Uh,
The thing that I like about the loyalty programs idea too is for things like a local coffee shop or Starbucks or something that people will go to on a regular basis because we all have caffeine addictions, is if you check in 10 times, then you get a free coffee or whatever, something to help keep people coming back. Because as I was telling Ellery this earlier, being mayor is something that people who are very competitive really want to try to do. That's the person who checks in the most on Foursquare at a particular location, so they become the mayor. And that's really fun for a while, but then the competitiveness kind of wears off, and then they're just like, okay, so I'm still here buying coffee, but checking in isn't doing so much. But by incorporating your loyalty program, and a lot of companies have loyalty programs of some kind, incorporating that into your Foursquare will also help keep people checking in on Foursquare.
Absolutely, and we'll look at perks for mayors in a couple slides and talk about how you can make that, because I think Jill's
But even if
right
you're not
on.
mayor, if you check in 10 times and get a cup of coffee, I mean, a cup of coffee doesn't actually cost that much.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you don't have to be the mayor to get some kind of a loyalty program. That's great.
Right, and that works with this last bullet, the idea of more social impressions
Right.
too. So you're getting for that the price of that cup of coffee on the 10th visit. You as a business are getting someone checking in and sharing all of those times that they've come back, and people who are following them and interacting with them on these networks are going to start to know that you are going to come into their consideration set when they see your name popping up over and over and again. And here we are, mayors. So what Jill said was spot on. It has to be really compelling and special, because being a mayor, yeah, it's fun, it's competitive. I definitely have been guilty of gloating about a mayorship once or twice.
You're not the only one in the office.
But that only has its allure for so long. So you want there to be a really good reason for people to compete to be mayor. And so this is a cafe in my neighborhood that as mayor you get 25% off of your bill. So as long as you maintain that mayorship, you get a great discount. And this is coffee and pastries and sandwiches and stuff, so it's not huge, and it's only the mayor. It's not their entire party.
I
but
that it says thanks for holding down the fort.
I mean, if you're there a lot, and that these kind of coffee shops for sure are places that people, especially, I don't know if it's a Bay Area thing, but half of tech offices are located in coffee shops in San Francisco. But if you're there a lot, that discount does matter, and it's going to compel you to keep returning to the same place and maintain that status. One thing to keep in mind, though, is to use it in conjunction with other offers. So one thing I don't like about what La Boulange does here is the only special that they offer on Foursquare is for the mayor. And that, if I'm not going to be like Aditya here, who's checked in 32 times in the last 60 days, I'm never going to get to that level of check-ins. So there's got to be other reasons for me to go. So don't just focus on a mayoral program. And in fact, I think then there's a reason that this is the last offer I'm showing. I think the mayor perks is the thing that you do once you have a really robust location-based marketing program out there. This is another layer, an addition you can add on to it, but I would highly suggest doing check-in offers or loyalty specials far before doing things like this for one individual. And lastly, I wanted to touch on physical coupons. So while not technically geolocation app, and you certainly can't do this on Foursquare, the idea of bridging your online and offline activity. So you've got a Facebook fan base, or if you don't, this is an excellent way to start building one. But translating that into in-store purchases. So getting people off of your Facebook page and into your retail location is a big deal. That's why you're on Facebook in the first place. So by offering them something that they can like your page and actually get a physical coupon to print out that they can only redeem in store, great way to kind of tie that world, and also a great way for you to start making sense of your Facebook activity. By if you make that coupon a unique Facebook specific coupon, you'll know how many are being redeemed and be able to tie that back to your efforts. So there are a ton of apps out there. We just did last month, I guess, or even
I
no,
think it was November, wasn't it?
apps. I don't know. The holidays has done a
Messed us up.
number on me. But I did an entire hour-long webinar about custom tabs for Facebook. This being an example of a kind that you can have there. And so when you go look on the recorded webinar section, check
Yeah,
that
it's
out.
up there.
But super easy to install a tab on your Facebook page that actually brings people and foot traffic into your store. So that said, the other use cases, that's what I called it. So these are going to be kind of all across the board, but they're all things that I think that don't necessarily immediately think of as location-based necessarily, but that are great ways to get some of that real-life buzz that then translates into social buzz as well. So first off is sweepstakes. Instead of just having people enter a sweepstakes via email or your Facebook page, tie it to a check-in. Get them into the store. So this is something Dunkin' Donuts did recently, where you know, based on you can do it based on when or how often someone's checking in. So it can be every check-in to the location is a new entry in the contest, or you could even do it. If you check in to our store between 12 and 3 p.m. on Saturday, which coincidentally is going to be when you have some big, in-store activity or sale going on, and you want people there, you want to drive traffic, you can tie the entry into the sweepstakes into checking in during a specific period. It's a great way to get buzz and excitement built up around the brand. And obviously, if you're in retail and foot traffic is part of your set of goals there, it's a good way to do that. Not everything unlike traditional check-in special or offer that is going to lead to a direct purchase, sweepstakes might not always lead to a purchase, but you're also just picking one winner or a handful of winners in exchange for all these people coming into the store. Nothing has changed in the world of business that once they get in the store, you still have to do things to get them to spend money there. But this is a great way to at least create the beginning of that relationship. Scavenger hunts. I wish that Vertical Response had any reason to do a scavenger hunt. In fact, I even pitched it for a trade show we were doing, but it didn't happen. But I think
you should just do it on your own.
Yes, the LA scavenger hunt. This takes gamification to a whole different level. Like it's fun. People love to look for things, have trivia and quizzes. So I have an example here from Louisville Slugger in conjunction with the Cardinals World Series wins. They hid these commemorative bats all over landmarks around the city. And then
I hope that was only in the good part of town.
I don't know. But actually, well, you bring up a good question. The last bullet there, be well prepared for maximum participation. So one thing that the advertising agency that was working with Louisville Slugger here had to do is be agile and be able to change on the fly, because they would show up to certain landmarks that they were planning to hide a bat at, and there were already hundreds of people there waiting, hoping there would be. And so, yes, to stop like stampedes or anything like that, they would say, okay, forget about the arch. We're going to go over to this coffee shop or whatever it is. So that's obviously a big scale thing, but it doesn't have to be as much. So think about events that might be happening in your city that bring a lot of out-of-town attendees. So if you're participating in a trade show or something like that, and this is a good example for if there's anyone on the call here who doesn't have a retail location, I'm glad you're here, because not having a retail location is not a deal breaker when it comes to location-based marketing. You can go out to the locations you want to market to. And so trade shows is a great example of that. As well as, if you don't have a product to sell that you're hiding around town, I've seen it done very successfully with tickets. There's a country music group called Lady Antebellum. Um, I used to work for a company that did their web marketing, online marketing, and around their tour a couple years ago, in every town that they were playing in, they would go and hide a pair of VIP tickets
Oh,
somewhere
that's cool.
and then tweet about that and have all these people retweeting and just really talking about the brand. So it's a great, great way to build up buzz and get people excited about something. So, and something that you actually don't need a Foursquare or anything for. This is just about communication, but it's about kind of the physical world and what we can do within it.
Maybe we can hide some email credits out on the streets.
You can't see my eyes rolling from here, but they are. So speaking of events, I do think that events are a great place. If you host your own, you should definitely be creating locations on all the various, whether it's Foursquare, Facebook Places, or apps. Create your event as a location. So, even though it's at this event here is at the Marriott Hotel, you're not just asking people to check into the Marriott because that's not going to give you any information. So
Right.
you create your actual event that's at the Marriott. But even more micro than that, if you have a booth at a trade show, you could make your booth a location for people to check in. And think about where else you could tie this in. So could you do a check-in offer? Someone checks in for a little piece of swag from your booth, or someone checks in to enter a sweepstakes. So a lot of these can be combined for some really great promotions. But the idea, again, it's all about foot traffic at trade shows, and this is a great way to do it. It doesn't only have to be your event either. So if there's local events, if you have a stationery shop on a street that does a festival every year, there's going to be thousands of people walking around the festival, checking into the festival. It's a great option for you to put a special out there saying, hey, are you at the festival? Come on by my stationery shop and get some envelopes or whatever it is. As well as national events and holidays. So is it the Super Bowl? You've got some way to tie into the Super Bowl coming up. Put a special out there saying, hey, it's the Super Bowl. We've got special on buffalo wings or, whatever that might be. And so that example at the bottom of the screen there is an example that on FanFest, this is at AT&T Park where the Giants play, they said stop by the Fresno Grizzlies booth and get 10% off. So this is today only. You're adding that sense of urgency, and you're tying it into something that's already got its own organic buzz going as well. So events can be great, especially if you don't have your own physical location. Also from the AT&T Park check-in, if you go check in, and this guy, A for effort, I'm going to say that complimentary venues, this is a little bit of a stretch. But he does have the idea that people who are at the ballpark in San Francisco might be visiting from out of town and doing touristy things. So he says, hey, are you going to be going to wine country? Check out this winery. So pretend it's not AT&T Park for a second. Pretend it's the Napa Chamber of Commerce or something. So finding complimentary venues that you can go as a user and leave tips about your business at is a great way, and this isn't an offer, this isn't a special, this costs you nothing at all. All you're doing is saying, hey, check us out while you're in the area. And so that's a really super targeted way to reach potential customers who are out there looking for a particular thing. You can identify it by where they're checking into, and you can try and bring them your way. If you need to, again, compelling with special offers is a way to rise above the other people who might be leaving tips around. And again, link to your other properties out there. So give them more information. A tip is just a short little blast about the fact that you're nearby, but you can link them out to other things to engage them, like your website. Taking tips to another level, and this is again something specifically for people who don't have a physical location, although there are probably use cases where if you did, you could do this too, but there is a way on Foursquare to be a curator of sorts. So this is Serious Eats, they're a food blog. What they've done is created a whole brand page on Foursquare, again free, where they go around and highlight some of their favorite food spots. So, if you're in the business, one thing I think has a great opportunity for this would be a real estate agent, right? So real estate agents, customers are all generally people relocating to a certain area. So making yourself a thought leader in your area, you're a Austin real estate agent, and you highlight all the great places to visit in Austin, and maybe even talk to some of those places and see if you can do a deal with them too, where they offer a specific deal to your customers. Great way and really good value-added content if content's your business. So if you are a service-oriented business, a consultant of types, or a sole proprietor, it's all about providing that content to keep people coming back to you for information. So this Foursquare curation is a great way to create value-added content, and all you're doing is going around and highlighting things you like that are available on the network. Foursquare also offers follow buttons, so if you are using Foursquare in such a way where you're curating stuff and you want people um, to connect with you, they can follow you much like they do on Twitter or anything else, where they would follow you and see your tips come to the top when they were walking around a neighborhood that you left tips in, as well as add to Foursquare buttons. So this is a pretty unique use case, but if you already have a site that has, you know, reviews of different places on it, or a directory of sorts, you can add an add to Foursquare button to that listing so that person reading your blog, for example, reads a great profile on Donut Plant here in New York. I don't know why that made Joe laugh, but so they could click add to Foursquare and it would add it to their to-do list on Foursquare, which is something as a consumer, as a personal user, you can create a whole to-do list of different locations you'd like to see. Social engagement. This is a thing that's really overlooked and also really easy to do and has huge impact. So you can see when people check in Foursquare, you can see them do that, and you can reply. It's really like you do it on Twitter or anything else. So um, this is this is my fiance Rebecca checking in.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Checking into La Ciccia, which is our favorite restaurant in the neighborhood, but kind of in San Francisco. We love La Ciccia. If you're in San Francisco, go. So you can see she checked in, and down at the bottom, you'll see that the restaurant retweeted that. So they are retweeting it, and Twitter has this robust integration with Foursquare where it's giving this whole preview, it's giving a tip from Foursquare, so if you've left a tip about your own restaurant, that would float to the top. So think about kind of that display as well. But you'll see here on the next one, then I was mentioned as well, and so Max, the chef, and this is, we didn't know him too well at that point. Now he knows us better because we go all the time because he does things like this. He thanked us. Just a simple thank you. I mean, you could think about offering a perk like, hey, we'll give you half off on a bottle of wine or something. And actually, now that I think of it, Max doesn't do this on Twitter here, but when we go and we're sitting at the counter eating whatever we ordered, he brings us little bites of other stuff all the time. He doesn't do that to anyone else in the restaurant. He does it to us because we check in and we tell people about the restaurant and say good things. But it's also when you're interacting with them socially, with people who've checked into your business, it's a great opportunity to ask for feedback. Hey, thanks for checking in. How was your dinner? Who was your server? Did you have a good time? Or if you're not a restaurant, did you find everything you were looking for? It's a great opportunity to start a conversation with people, as well as getting new ways to contact them. So say thanks for coming. If you'd like to hear about new deals, come like us on Facebook, or here, sign up for our email list here. There's great opportunities once they've started the dialogue by checking into your restaurant you can reach out to them and turn that into a lasting relationship. And lastly, I wanted to touch upon cause marketing and nonprofits. So there's two sides to this. For nonprofits, you can partner with local merchants to offer donations to your organization based on check-ins. And so if you, even if you're just a merchant and you don't have a relationship with a nonprofit, it doesn't have to be, you can just do this, for cause marketing purposes, for goodwill, et cetera, like Credo's doing here, donating $2 to whatever their monthly community partner is. But as a nonprofit, this is a good opportunity for you to go out into your community and partner with different locations that might be able to do something like this with you. Maybe they've already gotten, they've already committed some money to you, a corporate donation. So say, hey, how can we have fun with this and maybe give it a little more legs and do it this way? It's an amount that they've already committed, but it builds up social buzz as they go. And then this is actually an example from Foursquare's site, but I think it's so smart. Urban Ministries of Durham, they go around and leave tips and create locations to raise awareness about their issues. So this one is a dumpster behind the shopping center. So someone's at the shopping center, they go to check in, it brings up locations nearby them, and something's going to say dumpster behind the shopping center. They click on that, and they're going to see this message that's really, in message with what the nonprofit's doing. So um, this is obviously just one way of lots, but I wanted to highlight it just that there are ways to get creative with how you use the application. At the end of the day, an application's just a tool, but the cool things that are happening on it come from you, come from the marketer. So think about how you can leverage that tool to do some of this stuff. So before we hop into Q&A, just wanted to talk about a few kind of high-level things to keep in mind to manage these promotions and be able to, see success and measure your results. So first off is just logistical. You need to make sure that your geosocial listings are up to date and confirmed. So if you have a Facebook page, make sure it's linked to your Facebook place. Sometimes those are two different things. And by clicking the "This is my business" link on Facebook, you can claim it as your own and have it linked to your fan page as well. But also going to things like Google Places, Yelp, Foursquare, etc. Even if you're not planning to use these things actively, make sure that your listing is at least correct and not being abused. Educate your employees. If you're doing in-store purchases, you need to make sure, or in-store specials, you need to make sure that your employees aren't going to balk when somebody puts a
Shows their phone.
smartphone in their face and says, I want my free pastry or whatever it is. So make sure your employees are in the know as well. If you need to use specific promo codes, that is a good way to do that too. So it can actually say in the special, tell your server it's promo code, XYZ. It's also a good way to track specific campaigns. So if you've, got something you're doing on Facebook that's a deal and you're doing a slightly different deal or even the exact same deal promoted on Foursquare, if you have two different promo codes for that, you'll be able to see where most of your traffic is coming from. Set up an infrastructure for tracking. This could be a Google Doc, an Excel sheet. It could be very simple, but you could also look into integrating it with your CRM if you're using something like that. As well as thinking about how you could add custom fields to your lists in vertical response. So maybe there's a custom field that has checked in that you could update, and you could have a list of people that are your Foursquare, advocate mob, and you would be able to email them specifically. So think about what you can do with that data and make sure that you have the infrastructure in place to do so. Promote it. Nobody is going to participate in your location-based deals if they don't know that they exist. So Jill kind of talked about sending emails and including it in that. Think about how you can do it on your social profiles. Keep them up to date. Also, in store, people are already there. That's the time to hit them over the head. Make sure you have signage by your cash register throughout the store, and change your offers periodically so that, especially for repeat customers, it's still exciting for them. And lastly, and definitely applies to your employees as well, just talk about it. You want, or I want, and I hope you want, for more and more people to start using geolocation apps like this because it's a great wealth of information for us as marketers. So the more you talk it up and the more you say, hey, you could have access to all these different specials if you were to download this free app to your phone and start using it, that's, word of mouth, and that's how a lot of things get started. As for metrics, they're going to be a little bit different than your traditional social media metrics, right? Because they're really about these particular platforms. So the kind of straightforward one is total check-ins. How many people checked into you over a week, over a month, over a year, and see what you can do to move that. Uh, Look for check-in peaks. Are you seeing big peaks on Tuesday night when you happen to have happy hour special? Well, then maybe you should think about how you could build a promotion about that. Or maybe you're doing great on Tuesday and you see a valley on Wednesday and you want to bring in more people there. Um, Purchases per check-in. So once someone's checked in, you know they're there. Track what they bought, and then track it over time. See what the lifetime value of someone who's checking in. Someone checks in, redeems, say, a first-time customer offer, and then keeps coming back. See if that first-time customer offer led to more sales. And that one reach is one way where you can look in. So if somebody tweets their check-in, for example, see how many people followed them and keep track of that. Because not only are total check-ins going to be important, but the people who are checking in, you want to look at what their network is. And maybe if someone has, quite a bit more reach and they're checking in to your location pretty often, think about how you can reach out to them and engage them in another way and kind of, leverage that advocacy. So start identifying these insights and make those tweaks and optimizations as you would. And I think, yes, that's it.